Oh, welcome back to the show. And in this next segment, we're going to talk about real estate courses, real estate events, real estate workshops, and books to read. And the spirit of this episode is to help real estate beginners and share with them our perspective and views on various topics. And in this case, these are information tools that you will need as you ramp up. So Wes, going back into your early days, what did you find to be the most helpful? I mean, I think you and I, we read real estate books, mm-hmm. we read a variety of books, mm-hmm. we were exposed to courses, we went to different events separately mm-hmm. and together,
right.
and we went to workshops. Why don't you tell me what was the most influential, and we'll kind of go on each one, just broad stroke.
I think for me, it was I wanted to put together kind of a toolbox, so to speak. You have to have self-help books and courses and beliefs and things like that to go along with nuts and bolts of what you're trying to do. So if you have one without the other, to me, it just wasn't going to match. So for me, I knew I needed the self-help to kind of boost my confidence and take me along and get me out of my own ruts of Wes, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, whatever it may be. And then once I had
that is so interesting. It never occurred to me, at least in this segment, to talk about the self-help and self-improvement. But you know what? I am big in it.
Yeah,
I am huge in it.
Because
to this day.
If you've got the nuts and bolts, but without that, then that's the people who I find are with analysis paralysis. They've got the know-how. They've got the know-how, but they just can't they can't get off the ground and do it. So for me, I was kind of feeding both at the same time. It's like to me it was just taking them both in. So I looked at books. Obviously, I would kind of look at what's recommended. You look at people who have read something. Like for Matt, he introduced me to Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was kind of the beginning, I guess you could say, for me, and as well of lots and lots of other people. And so from there, I would just kind of get a feel for, if I felt like I had enough nuts and bolts, but I really wasn't getting progress, and I would just kind of step up, the self-help or the, more influential material, or and vice versa. If I felt like I had enough confidence, but I just didn't know how to do squat, then I would say, okay, well, I need to learn more.
It's kind of interesting, as I was listening to you talk about it, is that a thought kind of hit me. There is a certain group of people, they go through extremes. There are people mm-hmm. that just love books. I mean, right. I kind of view them as kind of super cheap, actually, in their education. They won't get anything. They're so minimalist in their approach. So what they're doing is they're always looking for everything in a $20 book. Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big reader. You know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a big reader. I am a buyer of these books, mm-hmm. So I love books. There's no question about it. So you've got that core audience. Then you've got the other, what I consider to be junkies, seminar junkies. I mean, they go to every $5,000 event.
Right.
Money is no object as long as they feel like they're getting the education.
Right.
And of course, there's something in between, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion about people who are the book junkies? I mean, they don't want to do anything else. I mean, have you run into anybody like that? I mean, they don't want to spend any money on their education.
Yeah, I guess I have. I have. And you have to realize that if you've been to college, I mean, college costs money, and if this is a career that you're going to have, I mean, you've got to invest in your knowledge. I mean, like they say, nothing's free, and if you get some information that you think is free, it can end up costing you down the road. So I'm a firm believer in paying for your education, but at the same time be smart about it. Pay for seminars that are going to help you. Or
a lot of bang for the buck.
Right, a lot of bang for your buck. Yeah, and there are a lot of those out there.
And the reason why I want to talk about it is, look, I mean, I've written books, okay, and I've published books, but I'm going to tell you a lot of the reason why I wrote the books that I did was those books were not in existence. There were no lease options books. Yeah. There were no subject to mortgage books. Mm-hmm. There were lots of courses and classes, but there was no books on the subject. And I felt that market was underserved. Mm-hmm. I felt there was a need for it. And I also not only did that, I felt like there needed to be conversation. It just seemed like that for anybody to learn it, you had to have some money or credit to be able to get into the game.
Right.
And I decided I was going to change that. So I think that there is a lot of information that really is not available on a $20 book.
There's just not, and by going to some of the courses, and one thing you're going to have to kind of put up with is just kind of part of the business.
Oh God, I think I know where you're going with this. I think, oh God, Wes.
but this is
oh God, we're gonna go there.
This is what turns people away.
Oh
from
God,
all
all right,
this is
let
why
us
they
know.
like to sit at their home and read their book. The reason because they're not going to be sold anything.
Oh God, I knew you were gonna go that direction.
I mean, that's just sometimes that's what as you were talking, that's what I was thinking about. I mean, so
I have a different S word. You want to know what my S word is?
What?
Sleaze.
Sleazy, yeah.
Oh,
yes.
God.
Watch out for the sleaze, and that may be something you're not going to know, right away. You know, because human nature gives people the benefit of the doubt. I do it. I mean, I'm the worst or the best at that, and so you're going to do it too. So, but don't feel bad if you go to a course and you're like, man, I smell something going on here. Then either just get up and walk out, or they'll typically always give you your money back. If you leave within the first day or the first few hours or something. And so,
but there's a lot of high pressure tactics, and
there's
you know
a lot
what?
of high pressure tactics.
Yeah, I mean,
and
we've been to a
that's
lot
how
of
they
these
make,
events.
and for a lot of them, I mean, that's the way they make their money. So you can't fault them at that if they have good information. But don't feel bad about going to the seminar, taking good notes. They'll probably give you some manuals or some notes or something. But at the end of the day, when they start the sales pitch, if it's time for you to go, you can just go or sit through it and then leave later. But I guess I'm just saying, you have to take the good with the bad, and that's what you got to do. I mean, you've got that's the business, that's reality. So if you go, you need to go, but buy what you want to buy. Don't buy what you don't want to buy. Don't feel bad about it. Just understand that's the nature of the business, and you got to, it comes with the territory.
Well, I have a lot to say about it, but I don't want to eat up a lot of time. It's a sleaze. I don't want to say everybody's sleazy. Okay, I went to a lot of these events. A lot of good information. Definitely made some good contact. So there's a lot of good, but there's a lot of high pressure sales pitches. A lot of these overpriced things and a lot of promises, and I have a big problem with that. I mean, they say that a system works in every single market, and I was like, give me a break.
Right.
I mean, there's a reason why I'm here in Columbus, Georgia today.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, not that.
With the way the internet is now, what I would generally go for is when I would go, I would take notes and I would get nuggets of information. And if you have a nugget that you think, okay, this will work in my market, or this is an interest I have in it. I mean, I'm not trying to get you not to buy the product, but if you go online, you can probably, if you hear a term of like subject to, so I've never heard about subject to. I mean, if you go online, you can learn about subject to without having to buy a $3,000 manual on it.
Right, and now a case is also to be made. On the flip side, I am a proponent of going to some workshops and seminars, because I tell you, the networking is pretty valuable.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my friends today, they actually came from a lot of them. A lot of them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, like it or not, that's where I led. We were kindred spirits, and the relationship continues today, despite the fact, the fact that our connections are gone, the previous ones.
Yeah.
And so, you make a lot of contacts, you meet a lot of kindred spirits.
Absolutely.
There is an intangible element that is gained just by being there in that learning environment.
Right.
And I think that's why a lot of these local real estate clubs don't ever get that far, because it's just local. They're always tied into going home and all that. I think there is something to be said of occasionally flying off into a different city, paying a hotel room, going somewhere all together, and just immersing yourself in education.
Right, and I think that's a group of people. If you've done it, you know what type of person you are. You can expect that the other people who are there, they're they have the same beliefs, or they're in the same walk of line that you are. So you're going to absolutely find like-minded people.
Now, I will say, and I don't have any really courses to sell myself. I have a package just as an interest of a disclaimer, but I don't have any formal courses yet. I may produce one in the near future, but I did learn a lot from real estate courses early on, and what I found was it was a nice blend, especially if you want a budget, between getting something that goes beyond the book, but you couldn't necessarily go to the event, because a lot of these courses were actually recordings of events, and I found that they were quite valuable. I mean, I really enjoyed listening to, and those, at that time, audio tapes.
Right.
I mean, now it's like CDs or MP3s, but at the time they were tapes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd sit in the car for hours, so I'd drive long distance, and I'd just be listening to it, and I'd replay it, and I learned a lot just by doing that. So,
yeah, like any market, I mean, you're going to be a sponge. When you go to these events, everything is going to be new to you at first. So, I mean, you're just going to be just taking it in. It's going to be coming in all directions.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be coming fast. And at times, it's going to be like, drinking from a fire hose. You've heard that saying. And that's what it'll be like sometimes.
And everyone has a different take on the same subject. I mean, heck, you guys are listening to us talk, okay? And Wes and I disagree on a few things. Right. So, you're going to have to sort out, hey, is Wes more right for me, or is what Matthew said more right? And that's really entirely your decision. Obviously, we're still business partners. So we have a respectful disagreement, and that's that. But yet we can still work together. So that's the beauty. Mm-hmm. It's your job to pick out what's best for you. So anyway, I wanted to give out a shout out to real estate courses and these real estate events. Now, I will say these events, these conventions, what it is if you've never been to one, what it is they get like a whole bunch of different speakers. And they speak for like an hour or two. Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, it's like a 2-hour infomercial a lot of times. Just like you said, you do get nuggets. But I'm telling you, you're not getting a course.
Yeah, if you go to a big event, I mean, where they may highlight 4 or 5, big name, people, you can bet that when you get there, they're going to give you, a 30-minute, spill on maybe, some learning stuff. And then the other 30 minutes is them getting you into their world to go to their seminar or to buy their course or something like that. But it's definitely low entry fee, and you can get a lot of information. At least to me, it's good it's kind of like channel surfing. I mean, the big events, it's kind of like channel surfing, and you say, okay, I like this channel, I'm going this way.
And it's true. You don't have to listen to every one. I mean, there's been people that you're just not that interested in that topic. It's like, oh, I'll go take a break.
Yeah, it's a good time to go get a sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Now, the final topic here I want to talk about is workshops and seminars. Now, I do want to give a shout out to an individual that Wes and I highly respect and agree. I mean, we can highly endorse. His name is Dykes Boterford. He's based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we've taken a number of his seminars. When we attend his seminars, I mean, we're very low key. We kind of sit in the back. I mean, he probably doesn't even know what we do, except I mean, we've never approached him about this, but we have nothing but good things to say about him. His information is top notch, high quality. But the caveat is you can't be a beginner. You cannot go to him as a beginner.
Right.
I mean, he's not stopping for that kind of stuff.
Right.
He's not answering dumb questions. Sorry, no offense intended.
Yeah,
he's not stopping for dumb questions.
Yeah, he definitely speaks to an audience that I mean, even several of his classes are called advanced strategies for X, Y, and Z or whatever it may be. But I mean, with Dykes, when you find somebody like Dykes, I mean, you can hone in on them. And Matt and I have been to him multiple times. I mean, we've been repeats to this back and forth. I mean, absolute zero sleaze factor at all.
Yeah. Very low key, no selling. He just the entire time he
and the thing is, I mean, Dykes is active. That's one thing when you look at them, the circuit of speakers or whatnot. Are they really active? I mean, are they doing things? Are they current on the information? And Dykes, I mean, he covers a broad spectrum of it, from hard money lending to landlording to several things. But he'll tell you about what he'll give you example of deals he's doing while the seminar is going on. So very credible. When you find somebody like that, if they're in your local area, stick to them and go to them again and again. Yeah.
Now, I've been in the business for I guess roughly a little bit over 10 years, and you probably about 9 years. And but having said that, we feel like we have a breadth of knowledge, but there's no question there's other people more experienced that have done things that we haven't. And Dykes Boterford is one of these individuals. And we're giving a shout out to him because we want to give a live example of who we think is credible. And I think Wes and I, over the years, as we stretched out from our core business of the real estate, we ventured out into publishing, and now we're doing audios and we did videos. I think we've been careful to be, congruent. Don't say things that we're not doing and making promises you can't keep. Right. And I think like attracts like, and I guess, what can I tell you? Dykes is somebody that we aspire. We like what he's doing because I think there's some shared core values. And we'd like to think that if you enjoy us and you like what we're saying to you, you are of kindred spirit. So that's what we're saying here.
Right.
But I'm a big believer in these workshops and seminars, and do your homework as far as checking them out. Not everything has to break an arm and a leg.
Right.
And not everybody, there is some good stuff, but you're going to have to dig for them. You got to listen for them. It isn't the super hyped up events.
Right.
So, any final topics on the real estate stuff?
Just understand that your education is an investment, and if you want to go the free route, it's going to cost you too. I mean, that's kind of the thing off the top of my head. So you have to invest in your education.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to come back for our final short segment on self-improvement. We're back from the break, and in this next segment, we're going extra long on this episode, mainly because we don't want to break this up into another episode. We feel that we need to talk about the issue of self-improvement, and this is really the subject that Wes kind of brought up, and the more I thought about it, I said, you know what, I really think we need to spend a little bit more time on this subject. And so this is why this episode is going to run a little bit extra long, but we took a break so we can start fresh and start talking about the issue of self-improvement. So anyway, when you said about hold the self-improvement, I was like, holy cow, it is so not talked about so much. I mean, because everyone talks about the data portion.
Right.
You got to know how to do this. You got to know how to do that. But you're right. I mean, so few people ever want to acknowledge the self-improvement thing. Right. And I will tell you, people who live in their brain, they think that this is all woo-woo and all this stuff, and they're very data-oriented. And don't get me wrong, I can be very technical. You know that.
Yeah.
But there is this other component that makes the difference of what you do.
Right. I think people, I'm going to go ahead and say right at the beginning of this video, in case for some reason, you have to stop it short, but people get so tied up with the how-to. If you don't understand it, if you don't respect the priority of the self-help and your inner being, so to speak, I'm just going to say you're dead in the water. I mean, you're going to have a hard road to hoe. I mean, you're dead in the water. You're not going to get it. You're not going to grow. There's so much you're going to miss by not having this nugget. So I'm just a firm believer in, and I'm just going to say if you can't balance the two, then it's going to be a tough road.
Now, what I want to do is touch on some of the things that I've noticed in other people that holds people back. And again, this is by no means meant to be a comprehensive discussion on it, but since we're on the subject, I want to hit some of the things that have come. For example, like thinking small. People have a very narrow context. So, for example, a lot of people can never imagine moving to a marketplace that's more conducive because that's where they were born, that's what they know, and that's that. They're not going to move.
Right.
In my case, that was something that I was aware of. I was like, I want to be successful in this. I want to build a portfolio. And if that means I have to move to make it happen, I will.
Right.
So that is one that comes up for a lot of people.
Right.
Now, as it turns out, you didn't have to move. So that
I
was kind of nice.
But I was thinking when you said people think small, I mean, I want to raise my hand because I think I think small. We were at a seminar. Very short story. We were at a commercial real estate seminar, and the guy that was giving the seminar was talking about teaming up with people. You may be in Georgia, team up with somebody in Texas and take down a deal. And I'm thinking, are you crazy? So, but there are people that were doing it. He was giving us stories and examples. So I want to do a commercial deal. But I'm kind of like, it's got to be close. It's got to be in my hometown. So, so I think small sometimes.
Well, I think we do. And the whole point of this is to make ourselves aware so we can catch ourselves.
Yeah.
I think if you catch ourselves, and sometimes, there may be a thought that just serves you, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So, but, a lot of people will get wound up. If you're having an ulcer over one's house,
right.
Come on. I mean, are you kidding me? Just like you said, maybe you shouldn't get in the game at all. I mean, you're going to worry yourself to death.
Right.
I mean, go make money. Go put money in an IRA or something like that. I mean, you're killing yourself.
You've got to be able, and I get this term from Matt, you've said it a bunch of times, you've got to be able to do some introspecting. You've got to be able to step back, put yourself up there, whether it be on a marker board or however you want to put it, put Wes Weaver up there and say, what are truths and what are misbeliefs, and so you got to be able to kind of step back and take a unbiased view of your beliefs and your inner core, and then work on those. Find the weaknesses and work on those.
Now, I think a lot of people have make false assumptions about themselves. And
Absolutely.
And the thing about it is, it almost takes a third person, another person, to be able to tell you something, because you don't catch it. You're so into yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just kind of unbelievable. Now, I mean, even this whole video thing, I mean, geez, we're doing this show. We have no experience whatsoever. Yes, we've dabbled in video, but we're actually calling this a show,
Right.
you know, and we're just kind of stumbling our way along. So what gives us the right to do the show? I mean, we've never done it before, but you know, the thing is, Wes and I have had a little bit of practice on kind of stretching ourselves and just saying, you know what, there is more to this world than what we know, than what we can see.
Right.
We absolutely, this is truth. We have no idea where this video is going.
Right.
We may have a viewership of 5 of our friends, and that may be it.
Yeah.
And I hope you 5 friends, I hope you enjoy this. I hope this isn't like a waste of your time. But we're hoping that it goes beyond that. And but we have to get past the assumptions, and that, like for example, one assumption is, gee, somebody may actually want to listen to what we have to say,
Right.
Even though we're not the smartest guys in town.
So
right?
so for us, it's a muscle. It's like going to the gym. I mean,
Yeah.
you exercise your muscles. Well, you have to exercise, your internal muscles.
Yeah.
And going again, like Matt said, going beyond your beliefs, going beyond your assumptions, and just believing in what could be, and channeling those in, matching that up with the how-to of what you're trying to do, and put them together, and you've got a winning formula.
Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, that this kind of came up in preparation for this segment, is the need for approval. So, Wes, you know what I'm talking about? Okay,
Right.
if I go do this, what will my mom think?
Right.
What will my dad think? What will my family think? What will my wife think? What will my husband think?
Right. Well, I said in a previous episode, when I bought my first house, I had my parents come over, and they were like dead silent walking through the house. I was wanting them to walk through, pat me on the back. Oh, this is a great investment, son. You've done such a good job. And I got nothing. Silence,
Did you get crickets?
Crickets. Nothing. Crickets.
So how come you didn't tell them?
I was too pumped up. I was fired up.
Okay. I thought you just didn't want them to squelch you.
No, I was fired. I was looking at the holes in the walls and the holes in the floor and smelling the dogs, and I was fired up. Yeah.
Well, see, my thing is, I'm still a little bit influenced by it. That's why I'm kind of real quiet before I do a project.
Yeah.
Because I don't want someone telling me it's a bad idea.
Right.
I've been thinking about this show and doing all this stuff, but aside from a few people I've been talking about, it's really been kind of quiet.
Right.
So now I'm kind of just we're springing this on everybody with no advance warning here. But, we all have this need for approval, but are you going to let it paralyze you?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be frank with you. The way I cope with it is just be silent. Just go do it without telling anybody.
Right. Yeah.
I'm a big believer. You don't have to ask for permission.
No. I mean, as long, obviously, if you have something you want to do that's within the scope of the law and the ethical,
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah,
obviously,
like that,
we should be law-abiding.
Yeah, you don't need anybody's permission. You don't need your friends, your parents,
Yeah.
I mean, your peers. You don't need anybody's permission. And you know what? You may find, and I do this. You may find a segment of your friends that you may say, okay, well, I have this type of life or relationship with these people, but yet I want to go over here and do this with something that I believe, or these people believe in me, or I can do this, I can, live this way, or something like that. So, you may find yourself kind of segmented. If you need a support, a group, so to speak, then you may just kind of have a little split lifestyle, so to speak.
Now, just as you were talking about, I was kind of thinking, we're kind of guys, so we just kind of power through it. I'm kind of curious. I'm sure women think differently and have a different way, but one day maybe we'll find someone we can interview and get their perspective.
I
don't know if they power through it or what.
I mean, I think they absolutely can. I mean, my wife right now is getting ready to have a baby, and so I'm thinking, God knew that only women can have babies because they've only got the strength to do it. I mean, men could never do it. We could never go through that. So I think women, in their own sense, I think they absolutely can power through things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing I want to talk about is, and I'm not sure where it comes from. It's probably upbringing, but the ability for people to take risks. Some people are very conservative. Now, are liberal. I mean, it's all relative, I suppose.
Right.
But in this particular context of investing, some people are just very risk averse.
Well,
I mean, and
for good
I don't
reason.
know what to say.
I mean, for good reason in some sense. You might have some people who are, they're not afraid of taking any risk, and you may find that the week before they bought $20,000 worth of stock. Well, then the week after that they did this, and they're always just kind of spraying stuff out there all over the place, and and they have no fear of risk, and then they find that they lose a lot of stuff. I mean, they want it. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
there's always a balance between managing risk and making good decisions. I mean,
Well, I do think, there are some people certainly reckless, but I think a
Right.
lot of people who are paralyzed by doing it, there needs to be some awareness of why they're so risk averse. I mean, why is it that they're so afraid?
Right.
I mean, is it their reputation? I mean, is it their credit? I mean, is it that they're going to actually lose some money? I mean, is it going to make you broke? I mean, I don't like losing money like anybody else, but I'm not going to cry about it.
right.
If it, as long as it doesn't cripple me.
Well,
I don't want it to be crippling. But
It's like we've had people.
Yeah.
We've bought houses we bought houses subject to, without getting into all that. But we've
Yeah.
had people who said that no one will ever sign the title of their house.
yeah, they won't ever do. That's true.
They'll
won't
never
ever
do
trust.
it. And you've heard the saying, well, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're right as well. And
That
so
is true.
We've dealt with that. We said, okay, well, you know what, you're not going to be involved with us, or you can't help with us on that project. And we go, and what do we find out? People just signing houses over to us.
Or the same thing about again, we're kind of straying off here, but some of you may understand, like the due on sale clause.
Right.
Oh, if you do that, it's a violation, and they're going to shut you down. I'm just thinking, and I don't know. All I just tell people is this is the facts of the matter. Look, if you're not comfortable with it, just don't do it.
Yeah,
But
right.
I mean, I just know in my gut of guts, banks want their money.
Right.
That's they just want their money. They don't want. They've got enough foreclosures to deal with. They never wanted to foreclose even before the recession. They sure as hell don't want to foreclose any more than they have to now.
Right.
And I just don't. I just don't think that'll ever change in the near future.
Yeah.
Now another self improvement issue that I've noticed is people their lack of. They think they're not smart enough.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're not talented enough.
There again,
Oh, okay.
I always can raise. I mean,
Okay.
I feel like we're all on different levels of
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's always a battle. Yeah.
And so, but well, how did you? Since you're admitting to that, I mean, how did you admit to that? I mean, that okay, you don't think you're smart enough, but what did you do to overcome that? Or you just simply said, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to do it anyway.
I mean, I think there's a part of
Or did you
you've
just
heard
kind
the
of
saying-
education?
Exactly, you kind of educate as you go. I mean, I think there was a part of me that was just dumb enough to believe. I mean,
Okay.
really, I mean, if you see someone else do it, I mean,
He's
it's like-
dumb enough to believe me.
Yeah, I was
That's
dumb
what
enough
he's
to
talking
believe
about me,
I mean,
okay?
So like right now, as I want to buy an apartment building or a storage unit, I have to believe that hey, there are people that own storage units that that maybe they're not as great as me. I don't know. I'm not saying they're not as great as me, but I mean, but that I'm am worthy of owning the same assets that they own. And so you have to be kind of dumb enough to believe. The other thing is fake it till you make it. I mean, you kind of fake it until you build that confidence. And faking it not to be somebody you're not, and faking it may be an internal thing. You just say, well, you know what? I don't feel worthy of this, but I believe that I can be. So you just kind of fake it until, as you exercise that muscle, like going to the gym.
It is a muscle.
It's a muscle, and then you'll eventually you'll build that strength up, and then you'll say, I am worthy, I am capable. So
Right. Now, there's also other people who don't like to put themselves out there. I mean, the fact of the matter is you do have to put yourself out there. I mean, you're going to have to look at a lot of deals. You're going to have to deal with real estate agents. You're going to have to deal with finance people.
Right.
There's a lot of people you're going to have to deal with.
right.
And I think that puts some people off because, heck, it still puts me off, to be honest with you, to this
Yeah.
day. I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that I have to deal with so many people, sometimes it kind of wears you out.
can,
but it's not a fear thing. It's, at least for me, it's just more like, oh,
A
God.
hassle, yeah.
It's a hassle.
Anything great, anything worth having is worth some of your time and energy. I mean, again, if you're married or if you have children or whatever it can be, I mean, anything worth having, isn't going to come at no cost or no exasperation of your time or things like that. I mean, joys and privileges of assets and things like that. They come with efforts. They come with investment of your time and energy and money. It just if you if you want to take a homeless person or if you want to take just someone with a 9-to-5 job that watches football that puts forward no energy in outside or extracurricular type activities or investing or things like that. I mean, you might say, well, their life's pretty easy, but there again, kind of what are they getting? It's kind of like you'll get out of it what you put into it, and that's within life, that's with investing, that's with your friends and family and everything.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about is upbringing, and more in the context of, not every family, and not every individual has come from a happy family. And so, unfortunately, I mean, there's so many divorces and broken homes and, And of course, you hear about abuse and all that. And I'm not trying to bring anybody down, but I do want to acknowledge it as a reality. So if you're somebody that's struggling along the way, you know, I can kind of understand, you know, the challenges of trying to overcome things, you know, like you were insulted, you can't do, you're not going to be amount to anything, that sort of thing. It is something that you have to work at and deal with, because ultimately you have to believe you're worthy enough to be able to step up to take the risks, you're smart enough, and if you become successful, then you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot because you have a fear of success issue.
Right.
Does that make sense? You're not worthy of it, so you'll self-destruct along the way and lose everything that you did gain.
Right. Yeah, you definitely
Gotta
cannot
be careful.
self-destruct. That happens a lot. I mean, we've seen that happen before. But yeah, I mean, if you're in that situation, I mean, you've got to believe, whether you fake it till you make it, or whether you believe behind the scenes, you know, until you kind of build that confidence, or until you maybe have one or two houses to be able to show somebody, maybe these people who you're fearful of judging you, you may, you know, until you get a few things to say, hey, you know what, I can do it. I did do a couple. Yeah, I might not be some multimillionaire investor, or I don't have this, you know, big, huge portfolio, but, you know, no one is grading you other than, you know, yourself, and depending, you know, so I would just, you know, base it off that.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for spending your time with us on this episode of the TurnKey Investors TV show. And tune in for the next episode, and we're going to talk about the Investors Roundtable. We're not going to tell you about it, but tune in and you'll find out more. Thank you.